on to the next item, which is the Visitor Info Center. Mr. Fordolowski, do you want to start us off on this?
Mr. Mayor, staff is looking for ideally council direction, much like 753, considering that conditions on the ground have changed. We have settled out the Station House initiative, so now council needs to consider the visitor center and the museum as far as an interim solution for that to optimize its operations while you and staff move forward to solve a more permanent solution for that. On assumedly the same site that it's at, and that's clearly a question for council to decide. But at least temporarily, we believe and recommend that the same site should be used for an interim solution for the visitor center museum.
Okay, now maybe Mr. Dickens can update council on the current condition of the existing Bridco that's there that they're using. I hear that's in rough shape and they want to take it back. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. The existing 12 by 40 Bridco that we're currently renting, it's got a crack in straight across the roof line. It's not something that they are interested in repairing on site. We need to bring the building back. There's obviously some structural issues going on. So they would like to take that building back and provide us with another alternative.
And if we proceed with, if council is on board with demolition of existing, it is in bad shape. Could we utilize the far piece of the property closest to the search and rescue area to put a double wide or a triple wide in that area to operate a museum, info center temporarily until it give you lots of room to demolish and stay on the existing property?
Mr. Mayor, yes, I think that would be the best strategy because currently where the 12 by 40 sits, it would encumber the demolition of the existing building. So if we were to bring in, you know, either a 36 by 60 or 24 by 60, we would need to position it on the lot such that it's out of the way for demolition, and if council did decide to build, it would not have to be moved again to facilitate the new building.
Right. Do you have a spot in mind for storage of the artifacts and for this move, and how quickly can this be done to relocate?
Mr. Mayor, the Advantage Hope staff are working on setting up solutions for movement of the artifacts. I'm not sure how long that process is going to take. I would suggest probably a couple months before all that can be moved out of there once the site is found for it, safe storage. Certainly with bringing in an alternative temporary trailer project, that's probably a 3 to 4 month project. If we were to move to the southwest corner of the site, there's a number of trees that would need to be removed. We would have to ensure that we'd probably have to bring in structural fill and ensure that it would sit on a solid base. So there's work to be done there, and we'd have to look at the size of the unit. I do have some numbers here for council's information on a 36 by 60. Purchase of a 36 by 60 is $225,000 approximately. Setup is $30,000. That's delivery to site, setup on an engineered foundation. And that same unit, that's $225,000. If you wanted to rent it, it would be $30,000 a year.
Can you fix any roof problems? They're responsible for the building, like roof problems?
If we rent it, yes.
All right, Councilor Smith.
Is this a temporary or is this a permanent we're looking at?
That's a temporary setup. So it would not be going on a concrete foundation. What they mean by engineered foundation is they have tie downs that go down into the ground, and it's a little more robust than just putting it on cribbing.
Just a question. Should we look at a permanent like a modular center that we can build, that we can use for a museum info center on the property, that, because moving in and out is always costly in these things. Because I'm sure they've designed one, we don't want to start engineering and starting over again. Is it possible to look at that, or?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, there are buildings out there that both ATCO and Britco, which are the two major players in construction and portable buildings. They do build more semi-permanent or permanent buildings. A lot of the times they do go on concrete foundations, but they're modular.
Yeah.
They come in sections, they put them together, and it's not your typical corrugated metal facade. It's an upgraded facade. I was poking around on the internet today, and Golden had a Destination BC visitor center that was run by the province. And then, for whatever reason, the province backed out on running that, and they sold that building off. But they've built a building that has nice timber frame. They made a real nice facade on the front, but it's basically a 12. By the looks of the picture too, they're 12 or 24 by 60 ATCO or Britco type unit in behind that, and that's what they're operating as a visitor center. I think the question is what does council foresee the building hosting?
Right.
Is it just going to be visitor services, or are you going to combine the arts in there? Are you going to have some leasable space? That will dictate the direction you go, whether it be stick build or a modular setup.
Well, that's the type of vision I'm looking for, some direction tonight, I hope, to, I would prefer that, a multi-purpose building, if you will. Makes sense to me, art gallery and museum tied together. There's funding options when you have a museum involved, and art galleries. I'll vote for that.
So I know that in some of the camps in the north and that, we dealt with Northern, which is, out of Kamloops, which is very similar to the other two in that area. But they already had pre-designed stuff that you could put walls and move and everything else, and it was way cheaper than anything we could build. But I just want to know if we could, entertain looking at that for the cost.
Mm-hmm.
We can change to whatever fit our thing with the walls inside, because they're all structurally built, so.
The conversation needs to start with council giving staff direction on the goal of the launch and move the temporary site on the existing site, or move the different building on the existing site. Councilor Erickson.
Why would we keep the existing site? That site's very, very valuable property. It's one of the most valuable properties in town. So I don't see why the Tourist Information Center should be there. It's hard to get in and out if you have a big trailer. I just don't think that's the right site. And I don't need, we really need to have a big facility like that. Tourism isn't, you look on your phone for everything now. So I'm just not so sure that that's the best site. That site we could sell, and it could be it's a very, very valuable piece of property. Put a tourist in place there, I just don't think that's the right thing we should do. Last council, we said we weren't gonna do it. I don't know what this council says, but I'm still in favor of, if we're gonna have a tourist center, move it somewhere else. 6th Avenue would be a good spot at the end of 6th Avenue.
Well, that's the second part of the conversation for sure. The first part is to get rid of this building that's a problem there.
As soon as you get rid of it, then we're actually asking, well, we gotta do something. No, especially when that 40 by 20, what is it? 12 by 40? 12 by 40 is giving trouble already. It's been, what, 2 years? 2 years, and we're paying how much rent for that every month?
It's $10,000 a year.
10,000 a year. And I don't think that's a good location, to be honest with you. I think we should, if you're gonna do something, we should look at a different location and put that property up for sale for something really good that would benefit Hope. I think that's the best piece of property in all of Hope.
So our info center is the 11th busiest in the province of BC. So I think we're fairly successful, and we've had nothing but great reviews from, Coastal and on what we're doing for numbers of people coming. And I do agree a lot of people are using the phone more and that all the time, but even still the numbers showing that people that visit our visitor center, 11th in the province, that's pretty good.
So the numbers that were given to us the other day were 50,000, right? Can we do that last year? Is that the numbers that I got?
Scott?
think it's 50,000.
That might be year to date, let's see if I can find it for you.
I'm just going by memory, I think it said something like 50,000. Came through there.
That might have been for the 1 month.
No, 50,000 people went through the visitor center last year. I think that's what.
No, it's more than that.
It's more
Well,
than that.
even if it's
I
50,000.
don't know if,
I can answer to that if you'd like.
Okay.
yeah,
To date, we've had just over 53,000 people come through that Britco trailer this year.
Within 1 year.
Year to date.
Within this year to
Okay,
date.
so let's
As that was as of October 1st, 2019.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's just take that number. If you divide 365 days into 50,000, that's 137 people going through it every day for 7 days a week. That's every day for 7 days a week. And you're not getting 137 people coming through now from September on to April during the winter months. I can guarantee you're not getting that. I don't know where you get the 50,000 coming from. I don't know where it is.
Well, I would say that we look at the high season numbers. It's not on average, it's not the same every single day throughout the year. We have 4 very high density months of the year where we have a lot of visitors through, and we have a lower season as well.
Well, I understand that, so I'm just saying, from end of April to maybe the end of September, you're busy through there, but after that, you don't have 137 people going through that building every day now.
We did up until November.
But you're counting whole families, you're not counting like.
No, we're counting parties. Yeah.
That's hard for me to believe. I've spent 12 hours next door to you there, and I've never seen that kind of traffic. I'm sorry.
Anyway, I'm just saying that 137, so I think if we're gonna do something with a new visitor center, I don't think it should be that location. That's the most expensive piece of property in town. I think we should move it maybe out by the Jehovah's Witness Church up in that area, if that's available, by Home Depot, somewhere where it's easy in and easy out. Not Home Depot, home restaurant in that area, but I just don't think this is what we should be doing.
Well, who's to say that that property next to Jehovah's Church isn't the same value as the one it's on currently? It's gotta be pretty close. In my mind, that would be the most pristine property in Homewood.
No, because you got number 1 highway coming through.
Well, I mean, it's only.
It's less travel than the number.
It's unknown at this point.
he's not interested in selling. He's been
Yeah.
approached at this time.
And regardless, I think, sorry, through you, I think the process was to tear the building down, that's what we're talking about. Regardless, this building is probably, this property is worth more without this building on the property, I would assume. As for lot value, I think the building right now shows as a detriment on the property than it does as adding value. So no matter what, I think, like if we're discussing just taking that building down and finding a solution in the meantime for that, I think that's something we have to go forward on regardless.
That's what I'm looking for tonight.
Taking the
Yeah.
building down, that's one thing, yeah.
That's what I'm looking for tonight.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the building has to go down for sure.
I think everybody at the table is in favor of taking it down.
But we can't get taken down until the
Yeah,
museum
it's
artifacts are
moved, yeah.
so that is being worked on. The museum artifacts have.
They're looking for a location, is that?
That's correct.
Yeah.
We haven't had a museum society for 20 years, and I don't think the exhibits have changed in the last 20 years. I've been in there quite a bit. Why are we even considering that? I mean,
I think,
you know,
just a quick comment to that part of it too, I think our contributions for the museum for cash-wise to Advantage Hope was quite high too. When we had museum
Donations.
Donations
come in.
quite
People
odd.
support the museum.
Yeah. It was actually, I would consider it pretty high to see some of those numbers when the museum was open. They've obviously gone down with the museum being closed, but I was taken away on how much money actually people donate to the museum when it was open for donations, so I do think it's vitalized.
Any other? Do you have enough information, Mr. Dickon, and we should have a motion to,
What's the cost to demolish?
Before we do that, Mr. Mayor?
yeah, go ahead.
So if we are gonna move forward with demolishing the building, we need to move the existing 12 by 40.
Oh, it's too close.
Yes, too close. And the services, the electrical and the water and sewer are coming off of the existing building. So that's not a problem. I mean, we can run new services to a new site on the property for a building, but Clearly, Brickco wants that building back. Vantage Hope has indicated that that's not enough space for them to operate in. So we need a temporary solution, upgraded solution for Vantage Hope to operate, which comes at a cost, so.
Okay.
They're all interdependent, these decisions, so.
All right, we could package it together. I thought I was gonna do the demolition first and then the second part, but you could do it together if you would.
Thanks, so, I think the process that you're saying needs to be note is clearly a space needs to be found for Advantage Hope, so that that building can move, so that the other building can be demolished, right? So I was liking what Councilor Smith was saying about the idea of investigating modular type construction as an option, because then you're moving once. So, and that decision might need to take place. You need to find a location or decide on a location before all that happens. This is getting complicated. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that in my mind. Well, I think we need to deal with that. If the building's in poor condition, and it's probably the best time of year for them to not have a space. I don't know, that's not gonna work. They gotta have a place to work. But,
When do they want the building back?
I don't have a timeline on it, but
Okay.
sooner the better. It's got a leaky roof.
We're still paying for it.
Mr. Mayor, I think we're looking for some time and space, as Councilor Medlock alludes to. And if staff can get direction, on preparing the demolition, and maybe assuming some risk on an interim solution for the visitor center and or museum, we can move it to what we feel would be the least likely site for the footprint of any new building on that potential property, if that's the way council wants to go. And that can be confirmed, and we'll keep going through the process with council. But we should be doing something and moving on something. The actual end state, as far as what the building will look like, if it is on that site, should be further decided by you and potentially in consultation with the public, as far as, again, what the form and capacities of that building may be. If they're just a visitor center, if they're a visitor center museum, if they're a visitor center meeting room, etc. And that is the way potentially you as council would like to go. And we would obviously adhere to that and suggest ways to get there. But in any case, from a short-term perspective, if we can get direction to prepare for the demolition and also look at the short-term interim solution for the visitor center and tourism, visitor center and museum, we'll come back with further details as far as the possible solution or the likely solution to this is, knowing that it is only an interim solution.
So what you're really saying, you haven't actually said it, is you're looking for a visitor center, offices for Advantage Hope, which you never said, and a museum.
Advantage Hope is operating the tourism center and the museum under contract, and actually they'll need some working space.
We're not adding additional.
Well, you said you're gonna need, you need space for Advantage Hope's offices in this building.
Mr. Mayor, they have a working space now, the trailer is very tight. So we would of course come back with solutions as far as what a temporary modular would look like, whether it be 2 or 3. And we'd work to that. But clearly there have been problems with only the one modular as far as space goes. And indeed things like public access to bathrooms, and I know you have concern over that, Councillor. So it's very likely that one trailer in particular will not fit the need. If we're going to put them in there for any amount of time to allow for a permanent solution to be devised and decided, again, how big should the building be, what should it do, etc., etc. And ultimately, what it'll cost.
Yes. Councilor Medlock?
Need more time to think. I don't mind the current location. I think it's a decent location. It's a large lot. I like the one, as one idea, you know, moving a building over closer to the search and rescue building, which gives you the opportunity to demolish the current structure and build something there. And then what that building looks like, whether it's just a visitor center, a museum, an office space, or if it has some other functions, included offices and, or art type function. We haven't even talked to those groups to see if they're in need or interested, or it's our decision, but we should at least talk to them. I think that's probably a step we should take, is at least getting a temporary space. I wouldn't necessarily be in favor of buying one of those 36 by 60 triple wides, but renting it, understanding $30,000 a year of a cost there is hefty, but it's potentially necessary. But I wouldn't mind also looking at other locations around the community that may be available, or could be, we could approach people to see if they'd be interested in selling, to move a visitor center to a better location, a higher traffic location, or more accessible, I suppose. And then selling off the current location that we have now. So, as a short-term measure though, I think that getting something set up and demolishing the old structure is necessary no matter which way we decide to go. So I'd be in favor of renting that 36 by 60 building so that they could, because we know it's going to be longer than a year. It'd be nice to have an operating tourist info center, museum, office space, especially with the decision to have the museum come in next year. Going to need some functioning space, so I think that's a good first step. And then we can look at the rest in short order here.
Anyone else? Councilor Tron.
Just a question, Mr. Dickon.
Sorry, Councilor Tron, and then you.
Okay. Would they be able to operate a double wide, or is it in your best interest, or your best estimation is the 36 by 60, you said? Is that the, like, is the price difference, so the $30,000 a year is a 36 by 60?
That's right.
So what's a double wide, would that be?
You're probably close in the 20,000 range.
I'm looking at it, it's about less than 500 square feet they're operating out of now. No museum function. You need to include more office space and a museum and a more open visitor center would be appealing. So 36 by 60 is over 2,000 square feet, so it's 4 times the size, of course, but I think that's sort of the size that you need.
At least 2 toilets.
More time.
Yes, at least 2.
So just,
Sorry, Councilor Smith, Councilor.
I know it works on a shorter timeline, but it is impossible to move that thing over, the trailer we have, to use that, you know, clear the site and have something built to put in that site within, you know, a time frame next year that we could get in. It's just, I'm looking at $36,000 for setup, plus $30,000 rental. The time you finish, it's gonna be $100,000 worth of money gone, and we got nothing. If we could move that over, you know, use that, clear that whole thing off, like I said, makes it easier. We have our sewage there, we have our water there, right, that. We know we have a concrete base there to work on. Do you think that's feasible?
It is feasible, yes.
Yeah. I just hate to waste money. I'm just trying to do one fall swoop and not be making 2 moves here. Because anything happens in those trailers too, and if they're damaged, they charge the heck out of you. They're not very kind people. I've dealt with them before.
Councilors.
I just want council to realize that we just increased Advantage Hope $70,000, so they're getting $320,000 a year. Now we're gonna put $30,000 into setup, $30,000 more into the year for rental. So now we're getting up to, just for Advantage Hope, $400,000 a year. Near $400,000 a year.
Okay, you want to clarify that?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that. So I don't think it's fair to lump that into the budget. No, it's
We're not
not.
paying it now.
No matter who the operator is operating a visitor center museum, they would have had the same issues with that building being in disrepair. Just like we own and operate, we own the museum, we needed a roof. The art gallery needed a roof, right? The medical facility on Park needed a boiler and a roof and paint, and we put thousands of dollars into all those facilities. We're the landlord. So a slumlord right now. We've given them, we had them operating in an old building that was falling apart, that had major issues, and then now we got them into a trailer, which has issues. We need to deal with this from that perspective, not looking at it as increasing the budget to Advantage Hope.
I
We
think,
look at it as the district assets are failing, we need to fix these assets.
well,
They are simply the operator that is currently occupying that space. That's why
I can see it the way you're looking for Advantage Hope side. I'm seeing it through the district side and the amount of money that we're spending to keep Advantage Hope alive and keep them functioning. And it's getting up to near $380,000 now for this coming year. And I don't know if the district of Hope can afford that. I don't know the benefit that we're getting for $380,000 for 1 year of moving this in, you know, and then we're gonna tear the building down now. If we're gonna do something, we should do it right. Get a decent structure there that we can at least use it if it happens to do something else. I'm just worried about our taxes. We're just gonna be overtaxed. We're spending, and everything. I don't know, to me, this is wrong.
So you don't want to touch the building at all as it is? You don't want to tear it
You
down?
know, if we have to get another little building in there until we can actually sit down as a council and say, this is the way we're going. We're gonna have a piece of a lot. We're gonna put a tourist information center on there, a certain size. That's gonna be that we can at least rent it to some other facility or lease it or sell it down the road. What we're doing here now, we're just wasting money. We're wasting a lot of money here.
Okay, you go ahead, Darrell.
So I would, I'd like to know, can I make a motion?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to take the building we presently have, move it over, you know, not demolition the site, and for council to, and for staff to go out and find, you know, a building, you know, that we can put up there as a permanent structure, save the money on this, say. We can do a facade on the front and change any modular into whatever you want for a fraction of the price of the building. And then with that, you can change the walls to whatever suits it, so whatever chain comes on the road. Is that feasible, Mr. Dick? Or?
It's a possibility, absolutely.
Yeah.
The figure for those buildings is about 250 square foot, including set
To purchase.
to
But
purchase.
that, I think that we'd be saving money instead of making two steps here.
Well, of course, that's.
And they're looking for direction. Because
Yeah,
You
so
can build a nice building for $250 a square foot.
let's get a second and then we have some discussion. So,
Yeah.
you gonna second this motion? Okay. Councilor Erskine, you want to continue speaking now?
Yes, you can build a nice building for $250 a square foot. You wouldn't have to have a modular put on. You can stick frame a nice building for $250 and it'd be a good quality for $250 a square foot.
Okay. Councilor Medlock?
What are the costs involved in moving the current building that they want back over enough that we can demolish the old museum and visitor center building?
I don't remember the exact figure for having it brought out here, but I'm thinking you're probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000 by the time we get the services to it.
So are you talking about taking the existing building and moving that one?
Yeah.
Even though they want that back?
No, they're
to
taking it.
It'd be the
repairs?
same.
Or are you saying getting another building?
No, take that one because that'll save us a pile of money because they charge
No,
fees.
they're
No, they're
taking
taking
it
it
back.
They want
Yeah.
that building back though.
But he had said there's no timeline.
Well, I would need to speak to them
We
as
can't
to what
move
they're.
it, yeah.
Ideally, I mean, if their roof is leaking and they need the building back to fix it, they should be bringing us out another 12 by 40 to replace
And they're
it.
expecting that, and rent out the building without a leak.
Okay, all right.
Somebody got it.
Okay, that's.
And then the property center.
So,
Okay.
So what is your motion?
Our motion is to get another building like that, then to move it over and then demolish the building and look to build a permanent place. Not to do two steps.
Much better.
If renting and setting up is gonna cost us $100,000 done or finished, really. It does. Done it before, it's not good.
Councilor Smith, and you're going to continue to endorse that, support that motion?
Yep.
Okay, any other more discussion on that?
a little bit.
Okay, Councilor Medlock?
I'm just trying to picture timelines, and so what do you think a timeline looks like to have something on any particular site ready to go? I'm looking at another tourism season lost, operating out of a tiny visitor center, or we're not putting our best foot forward. And I'd like to see that happen sooner than later, right? But what do you think a proper timeline would be, anybody that can answer that question?
Well, I think, you know, depending on what council wants to see as a new building on the site, certainly if you're gonna go to a stick build, you're a couple of years by the time you get that designed and built. I'm not sure on the modular end of things, how quickly they can put something like that together. When I did talk to Britco with a 36 by 60, they didn't have one sitting around, ATCO didn't have one sitting around, they would have to custom build it for us.
Timeline on that?
Which is a good thing in the sense that we can have some input into the design of the building. However, if we were gonna look at a rental on a custom built building, they'd want probably a 3 to 4 year term to recoup some of their capital outlay, so, which may be well beyond what we would need, maybe not. It depends on, you know, how quickly decisions are made and if we can keep the ball rolling, right? I would think, you know, to move what's there and demolish, you're looking at 2020 to get that done. Not the move of the existing one, but the demolition and getting the
Well,
site
it's not
cleared
gonna
out.
happen this year, but when in 2020, a year from now?
To get the building moved, I'd say 3 months.
Okay, and then demolish the old building, and then chances are that they're gonna be operating another tourist season in a small straight the way they have been before. That's rough. We've got another person coming that needs to have space to work, and I don't think that's gonna work. So I think I can't support that motion. They need more space.
I think it depends on availability, you know, and there's other places out in the marketplace, you know, so there's other companies out there. Like I said, there's Northern Camps, there's some other ones that might be available. They might have a camp coming down too that's coming back. We wouldn't give us a deal, but.
Either way, I think that they need more space than they currently have, so I'm not really in favor of putting the same space back on that same site for them to operate a whole other season with more people coming. It's just not gonna work.
At minimum, it would be 2 and still have the museum in storage.
2
trailers.
Are we talking about doubling the amount of space they have?
I
now?
am.
Yeah, keeping the same amount of space they have now is
Isn't gonna work.
not going to work. They need more space. I think they need at least double the space, but more would be better, because I'd like to see them, if it's going to be years, but between now and when something is finally built and they can move in for the last time ever, then we need to provide them with a space that they can operate the way they're supposed to be doing, which is displaying our museum history, offering a better experience, and providing the office space for a new economic development officer as well as the rest of the staff. So, yeah, I'm not in favor of this. Motion.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's defeated. We're back to square one. Let's talk about demolition. Any other options on the table? Anyone wants to go for it? It can't stay the same.
We're gonna have much more research done than just come here tonight and bring this up and ultimately a good decision. You know, some of us saying it's $250 a square foot to get a mobile unit put in there. You can put $250 and build a beautiful facility. That's a good facility. You only have to have some office, some bathrooms, and some big open space. It's not like building a house. $250 for a house would be a beautiful house. It's pretty one. And I think we should sit down and spend some time actually looking through it and looking at different options, what we could do. I think if it's gonna be a temporary thing, it should be temporary for a year or two, and then decide if we're going to move forward with the tourism. Tourism complexes are going by the way. Look at Merritt, for example. They had that big, beautiful facility. Now they just have a little one uptown. It's going by the way. I think what's happening here is we want to build some big empire here for Advantage Hope, to take over. Well, that's what's looking, we're giving more money, now we want more office space. And what it's actually doing is taking work from the district, which the district should be doing, and we're funding it over to Advantage Hope. That's what I'm seeing. And then, instead of having the workers in our office, we're funneling it over to them to do the work that we should be doing. Economic Development Office, and I believe should be here, not there. And so what we're doing,
Point of order, I'm gonna ask for point of order, because we've already decided that situation, how we're gonna go for, it was council's decision, we're moving forward on that, so stating that what you wanna do can happen when that contract comes up in 4 years. We're moving forward on that, so I don't think any more
But still,
discussion of
to build-
that has to come up anymore.
to build big office spaces, that's,
So staff's looking for some direction here on demolition and what we're gonna do with the existing building because it's leaking. So Brickco can do the change out. And then maybe you can come back with costing to us on adding a second, at least a second single one or whatever makes sense on the site, what's left. And you move it and still leave room for demolition. Councilor Petrone.
I agree with like a lot of what Councilor Victor Smith was saying, is that I wanna find a way to get them in a facility that, and I agree with Dr. Erickson, Councilor Erickson as well, in the fact that everybody keeps wasting money. I mean, everyone wants to find the easiest way to get in a building in the most financially responsible way, and I don't think we're all in a common consensus on that, but I think the discourse between the seven of us is that we just need a little bit more space. I don't agree with a triple wide trailer is something that we need to rent as a, you know, just a quick way to transition from one building to the other, but if an EDO and, what do you have, one bathroom? No bathroom.
One bathroom.
One bathroom, so we need 2 bathrooms and more space for an EDO, why not just, if they're giving away this single wide, come back with either, you know, 20 and a double wide or whatever, and just move it on the same location, like Victor was saying, demolish the building. I think that's I think we're trying to retort between a brand new building and modular.
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
Can we look at an option of, I'm gonna eat my words on this, but the office building that's at Engel Anderson Construction, that's for lease, putting them temporarily in there for right now, possibly being able to display our museum facts in there, see if this is a financial option. Pull both buildings off, pull the buildings off of, what's that?
I thought that office space was leased right now.
I think.
It is, Mr. Mayor, it's leased by Trans Mountain Pipeline.
It is leased, okay, well then that ends that discussion. Okay.
All right.
there's other spaces in town. Maybe there's other spaces in town.
I'm just thinking if they're to put them into somewhere, we gotta put them in somewhere, and putting them on site in a temporary that we're gonna be spending a decent amount of money on for rental. It'd be nice to get them off the property, completely demolition it. It gives them space, there's no cost in moving the building again. The Brickco comes to pick it up to send it back, I'm assuming that would be in the part of the rental that we're already at. I just don't know if there's a space available for them to operate at, with it for a yearly time base, that's suitable for them.
Yeah, that retail space we looked at was way too expensive.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for a couple of years now, we have grabbed in that little trailer, nothing taking place, I remember we've gone outcomes with the station house.
Right.
That amount of time has passed, all the rent that we paid has passed, like, it would've been nice to have made a decision a couple of years ago, of course that didn't happen, so I'm looking at realistically when this is gonna take place and what their needs still are. Their needs are the same as they were before, and they've expanded with the additional person that's gonna be coming on board.
All right. Anything else?
Maybe we can look around town and see if there's any spaces around town. Maybe the mall, like a space in the mall for temporary.
I know, he's having a separate meeting, I guess. Okay, the public can ask questions in just a minute here. Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Is there some space in the mall we could look at for them to move in for a year as a temporary, then we can clean that spot right up and then,
You mean Midtown Plaza?
yeah, if there's any
There's
space.
nothing available there right now, it's all rented.
I think we should look around and see if there's any spots around town that could be used.
Quick question to Kevin. There's obviously space within the property to demolish the building and be able to put either a double wide or the 20 by 60 that we're talking about. Yeah, what was it?
36 by 6.
36 by 6. There's enough space on the property to have that situated somewhere, demolish the building, and then we could look at where that building was Also, there's another topic that comes into this too, is Hope Search and Rescue as well. We're looking at a new building as well, so that's another discussion that we're gonna have to have along this process. If they stay there or if they're gonna rebuild there, because I know they've kind of been bugging us for answers too, as well as the operators, so. I think I'm more in favor, what I think I would like to see us do is that we do rent the bigger building, put it on the property, set it up, because we're gonna be looking at a 2-year position, I'm thinking, and all said and done, what we build, where we decide to go. So we put something in there, that gives us enough room for our museum artifacts, or a good portion of them to be on display, office space for Advantage Hope, EDO, and also for the Tourism Information Center. And then we can also look at it as a council, if there's another property that we'd like to go to. Yes, we're gonna spend some money on rent, but what we're doing right now is we're just fumbling the ball. So I think we need to make that decision, that we rent that bigger building, put it on that property, allow Kevin to get that building sent back, and take it down, and demolish the current building now.
Mr. Mayor, perhaps there is some merit to Councilor Smith's comments. I've provided you some informal information, but clearly all the facilities in the district are at maximum capacity or over. And there should be some rationalization done considering the number of fire halls, this location, that location, public works, etc. So several communities undertake these strategic studies. They look at all of what they have, they look at a gap of what they need, and then they come up with a plan to rationalize these, a plan to either build or adapt or move. And there are experts that can look at what is required for each type of building. And then they develop a 10 to 15-year plan. They develop resourcing a plan as far as what gates, what phases need to be passed through, and identify how you resource that plan. That clearly is long-term, and perhaps that's something that can be approached by council if an interim solution for the visitor center and the museum site can be made. And it may influence that particular site there. And in fact, council may decide potentially to sell it. But it should take you should take a systematic look at all the facilities if you're going to consider that. At least that's my advice.
We'll add that to strategic planning in the new year. But in the meantime,
I'd like to make the motion that we rent the bigger building that's been proposed, put it on the site, get that other building back to Brickco for repairs. Hopefully they give us a discount because we've been dealing with a leaking roof. Maybe we could, I'm sure that they'll with that part of it. And we get ready to set this up for tender to get demolished. And then we make a decision in the new year, have Advantage Hope back in this building, get everything back into the building, up and operational for the tour season. So it looks professional. It's a little bit better facility for them. And we get them to allow them to be able to do their job that we're paying them to do. That Councilor Erickson doesn't see that we can't take them and get their good numbers if we're giving them a crappy little trailer to work out of. So I think we need to give them the space to be able to work and improve the numbers for the hard work that they do over there.
that was a lengthy motion.
Yeah.
Did you get that motion?
So the motion is to rent the bigger building that's proposed, get it on site as soon as timely possible, and get ready for demolition of the new current building that's there.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion,
Yeah.
there we go.
So you brought up the fact that they probably would want a longer term lease for that building. Are they leases where you can get out of the lease, or are you committed to a fixed term? Is there any chance to purchase the building? If that is one of the decisions we make, that maybe we want to buy that building and put a facade on it and use that as our permanent structure? Are those options available as time moves forward?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. There would be the option if we rented it for a period of time and then we decided, well, this is suiting our needs and we wanted to buy it, there would be that option to do that. The reason why Brickco mentioned that they would want a longer term rental is because they would have to build the building, but perhaps there's another provider. I mean, that was just Brickco I was speaking to, but there may be another provider that has one sitting there that's ready to go and would rent it on a month-to-month basis. So that, I'd have to flush all that out.
So that's roughly 30,000 a year rental cost, do you think? But also, was it 30,000 delivery and setup?
That's what they quoted me.
That's just from one company though.
Councilor Harrison.
That's the 36 by 60 we're talking about, or
That's right.
24 by 60?
36.
36.
What kind of interior walls does that have? Like, how do you separate spaces?
Well, they're just sort of partition type walls, so you can move them around quite easily.
Anybody else there? All right. We have a second, call the question, all those in favor? Opposed? We're split? Oh, sorry, I better do that again. All those in favor?
I'm,
All right, it's defeated. Here we are again. Okay, so we're no further ahead.
I need more information.
yeah, I'm in favor of that, and I'm in favor of that if we can go out and get more better quotes. I just need to hear like numbers. I just don't feel comfortable making that decision in looms of all like just one quote.
Hey, that's fine, that's fair, that's why we're here.
Okay, can we get some more information?
Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, you can of course make, and you can't officially make a decision tonight, but we can get information to start staff action on. But we can work to provide more clarity on that triple wide, perhaps from other vendors, as Kevin said, or whatnot, and then bring that back. So you can ratify a motion on Monday, potentially making it subject to us coming back to you with an estimate for further approval as far as the cost goes. In any case, as has been identified here, and I think acknowledged by most people, the condition of the current trailer is wanting and needs to be replaced, and it's too small, not fit for purpose. Therefore, it needs to be repaired, and very likely, as members of council have suggested, and we'll take that suggestion, is that it's probably not big enough. That's the interim solution.
Okay. So you actually need a motion for that, or you're just gonna come back on that? Just come back to us on next
Mr.
week?
Mayor, yeah, just some informal direction, and we can get back to you, and then a formal resolution can be made, obviously, in as many steps as you want. For the whole package as an interim, or go out, bring us estimates back, we'll endorse the estimate, what have you. In any case, action must be taken, and I'm sure council is desirous of taking
It
action.
does, it does, it's long overdue. Any other questions of staff?
I just comment, like, I thank Kevin for getting that, like, I think we put him on the spot, I just, knowing for one piece of property, like, I appreciate that your time going in, even getting quotes before you come here, and giving some information that maybe Councillor Smith as well has noted that there's some other people out there. I appreciate that we can go out and hopefully get a better price for the district as well. And maybe something, they have a better situation too, that they have something laying around, when you may find out or not, so I think that process is gonna be better, I think.
All right.
To flush out.
Any questions from the public at this time about the Visitor Center Museum site?
I would just like to make a couple comments.
Yes, Ms. Jones.
Just as a friendly reminder that through our funding from the District of Hope, $100,000 of that funding is a grant by DVC to run our visitor center services. So we, in relation with the district, do apply for that grant annually, and that $100,000 covers that. Second of all, I do want to ask that it's kept in mind that we, right now, we have the amount of visitors we have through, but we also have an office that we run. And I personally share an office with our visitor center manager, and that office shares a wall with our public washrooms. So when we have the job of managing economic development for the District of Hope and for the area, we have community visits to the Provincial Nominee Program, we have potential businesses coming in, and this is the impression that we're giving them when they come to our office. They can literally hear through the walls what is going on in that washroom. And now we're going to bring an economic development officer into that as well. So I ask that's something that's taken into consideration, that when we're being asked, what are you doing for economic development, what are you doing here, we would like to put our best foot forward, but we can't always do that because I spend half my time in my vehicle on conference calls because I can't hear because the space is so small, there's so many people and it just doesn't work. So, just in terms of space that's needed to operate, I'd just like to take that into consideration.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Mr. Lasser.
Has anybody inquired about possibly renting, borrowing, utilizing the vacant courthouse for a period of time while the site would get demoed and a new place get built and stuff like that?
Sorry, the which house?
The courthouse, the old courthouse down by the ambulance place.
No, Mr. Mayor.
It's
It is my understanding that the majority of it is being used by the BC ambulance service, and it too may need significant modification.
There's other things going on in there too, but there's other
And
things.
its location at the end of the cul-de-sac would be even worse for parking potentially, when you're driving a fifth wheel.
It could be a temporary location to get through the winter until next summer, until something could be built and a proper place be put in there. The concern that I hear is, if you did move a double wide or a triple wide in there, put it beside what's currently there, demo it, and then you decide to build a new building there, maybe that double wide or wide is in the location where the new building would wanna go, you might wind up having to move it again. It should be nice to start with that property, the clean slate, or look at doing something different with that property. And I hate seeing money spent by moving and removing again. And just a thought, if that was possible to beg, borrow, steal for a temporary location.
Mr. Fortalowski, you and I did talk before as well of the site on the Old Hope Princeton, the gentleman on again, off again. We did not approach him on maybe a potential lease of the property, short term, until he decides what he wants to do with it, and put our trailers there and relocate until we do the demolition. We just talked to him about purchase at that time.
And if council would like, then we'll also investigate those two alternatives, so that we would come back with answers to 3 questions for you.
It was a bit of an issue with turning out of the,
There is ingress and egress as far as crossing Old Hope Princeton Way one way.
yeah.
Regarding, I can approach, and I can also investigate the BC ambulance building and get an answer back, if council so wishes.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So we're off track. Thank you, Mr. Lasser. Any other questions related to the museum?
I just think there's a lot cheaper buildings than what Kevin's talking about. I just purchased one mini built in Rosedale. I don't deliver it even, but the size of a double garage you can buy, I mean, they'll probably make bigger. And it's like a third of the price of what we're talking right here, you know? So I think you need to, if you're gonna do something, you certainly need to do your homework and go and check other places, you know?
Yep.
And it's becoming a very popular thing to have these mini builds. I think if you're gonna stay to, I'll tell you what to do. The property there that you have there now, then you should be subdividing off 2 lots there. Like you got the search and rescue, and it doesn't look like they're going anywhere. There's a space lot right next to them, and there's a corner lot. So you should subdivide 2 lots there. Put your tourist bureau on one of them. Maybe you can sell the other lot to a motel or something, get some money back to the community to pay for these things. You know, our taxes are unbelievable. I'm telling you, you know. And I don't understand what else is going on with the old Esso property. You bought it 2 years ago, still sitting there. You got $350,000 of taxpayers' money invested there, my taxpayers' money. And it's still sitting here, nothing's happened. You know, and there's developers dying to buy that property, to subdivide it and build homes. And you know what, the bubble's gonna burst here in the next few years. And you're gonna lose money in that property if you don't do something about it. Like, a private developer would have had that subdivided 2 months after they bought it. And they had homes on there now, and you're collecting taxes, but it's sitting there, taxpayers' money tied up in it, and we're not doing nothing. I haven't seen anything happen there, you know. And another thing that bothers me, John, is you said you settled with the tourist, the old train station. Well, I haven't heard a thing about that. Wouldn't you think the council would want, if you made a deal with the government, I heard a rumor you sold it, you get $600,000. Don't you think council should have that out in the public? Like, they got a bad name out there for what's happened now. But if you're getting 600 grand, don't you think you should make an announcement? I don't know what you got, but I'm just saying, I think we need to tell the people what's going on, guys.
It was released,
Talked about it at council.
we talked about it at a council meeting, open council meeting. It wasn't the sale of the building. It was our settlement with the government on their reneging on their deal. for
Right,
six-
and I agree with that, Mr. Mayor, but don't you think the council, they have a whole page ad every week in the Hope Stand, don't you think you should have said that, hey, guys, the town, we as a council, we're great guys, we as a council got $600 out of the government for this thing up here, which was a kind of a white elephant happened. But you make you guys look good, you got $600, $600,000, and now nobody knows that in town.
I've had people compliment and thank us when I read it online.
Well, I'm in with a lot of people, I haven't heard nothing about it. I heard a rumor. Anyway,
I heard, well, people said because they read it online with the district, so that's what they
That's
told
not,
me.
but that's not even the building we're talking about
It's
tonight.
not even on the agenda.
No.
Not even on the agenda. So,
Okay.
I know, so, all right. Motion to adjourn.
well,
Second. Favor?